Hey, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Raising Noir Twins. Y'all, on this episode, I know I say this every time, but I'm super duper excited and I'm really honored to have this woman on our show today, okay? This woman, let me tell you, she's the founder of twiniversity.com. If you have twins, you already know her, but if you don't, I'm gonna go ahead and shed some light for you, okay? So you get to know her a little bit better. But she's a founder of twiniversity.com. She's the author of this wonderful book here, What to Do When You're Having Two. Bestseller, by the way, okay? Just saying. Congratulations on that. And she's world recognized in multiple births of support, education. And if that wasn't enough, y'all, she's also a certified lactation counselor and child passenger safety technician. And so again, I don't know if there's nothing this lady can't do. It seems like she does it all, right? But y'all, please welcome to the show, Miss Natalie Diaz. Hey,
Yay!
Nat.
Oh, thank you for having me. This is so
Yes.
fantastic. I'm honored to be on your show, and I can't believe you asked me. And how could I possibly say no? Because you're keeping it in the family. So yeah,
Hey.
that's how we do it. This is so fantastic.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very,
Thank
very,
you.
very much. Now, I can't believe you actually read my book. I thought it was
Yeah.
only like my mom and my sister, which I
Oh my gosh.
bet you they even haven't read it. To be honest with you, now that I'm really thinking about it,
Right.
odds are no.
Right. But no, of course, no, I had to get it. I was just like, well, first, I wish I had this book my first year. My girls are 3 now. And so this would have been a lifesaver. But, I'm reading back and then maybe hopefully I can give some advice to someone after reading this. If because you come across people just day to day life, right? They're like, I have twins or this. So, hey, this right here, it's a survival guide, y'all. If y'all have multiples, just
Aw,
saying.
thank you. Thank you. That is
Yes,
it's
yes, yes.
my labor of love. So that's the second edition. The first edition I wrote when my
Okay.
20s were still little. And
Mm-hmm.
then there's so many things that change, even like the guidelines from the American Academy of Pediatrics and stuff. So then
Mm-hmm.
I ended up kind of almost rewriting it, to be honest with you. So there's
Okay.
people that have like the yellow cover or like the orange cover,
I saw that
and
one.
you
Yeah.
have the fancy new one, which is
Ooh.
the white cover. And it's really, I just want to always make sure that everybody has up to date information. But as an
Hmm.
author, that's a real challenge because your publisher doesn't give a crap. Your
Yeah.
publisher's like, dude, we already did it. But the good news is that since it continuously sells out,
Hmm.
that I'm allowed to do that. So I've had a lot
Yeah.
of reprints, as they call it in the biz. So
Right.
since we have so many, they don't like get too mad at me. They only get a little
Okay.
mad at me, but they allow me to do it.
Well, I appreciate it because like you
Yeah.
said, it's important to stay current on everything because from when we were kids, things have really changed, right? And I feel like now, just within just the 3 years, right, that I've
Mhm.
had my girls, it's like,
Holy smoke.
oh,
Yeah.
okay, people come on the airplane. I'm a flight attendant too, and so people come on the airplane with all these different little things, and I'm like, I don't even know what this is. They're like, how do you? I don't know how to hook this up. I don't know how to break this down. I don't know. Sorry.
Gotta watch a YouTube video. Be like, hold on,
Right,
we'll find this out. Let's
right.
see.
Right. So, okay, so do you have boy girl twins?
I
Boy
do.
boy? Okay.
I have boy girl twins, and
Okay.
they are gonna be, hold the phone. They're gonna be 18. I
Oh,
know.
so you're like,
I've lived to
oh my,
tell, and I know how good it's gonna get.
yeah.
And that is, I was really worried that as my kids got older, that people would look at me and be like, oh my God, her kids are too old. I don't care what she has to say. But I'm always current, right? Like anything that's
Uh-huh.
happening today, I am in the world of pregnancy and newborns and toddlers and school age kids. So
Yes.
despite the fact that my kids kept getting older, I'm still
Hmm.
literally in it every day. In fact,
Yeah.
I was with newborn
Oh.
twins yesterday, helping their mama
So
breastfeed.
cute.
So I'm always in it, but I actually really think that me having older kids is an asset because
Hmm.
now that I'm sitting here, I could really tell you, everybody always says it gets better. And
Yeah,
everybody's like, oh, the
that's
teenage years are
it.
horrible. I actually, to be honest, like Michelle, I do not think the teenage years are horrible. I
Okay.
think that
That's
as
good.
twin parents, we go through a lot more in the early years, and we
Hmm.
have all those
Yes.
difficulties in that very beginning, that
Hmm.
in comparison, the teenage years are not bad.
Okay, that's good to know, girl. You scared me. I thought you were gonna be like, they're horrible.
No, not at all.
I'm
They're
that.
wonderful.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So there's light at the end of the tunnel because
Totally.
I'm in that toddler phase now. So just pray for your girl.
Well, that's worse. That's a worse time because their communication skills aren't really up to par,
Yes.
and they're going to
Yes.
fight, and they still don't know how to be a little human, right? They're
Yes.
they're, they're just learned,
They're
they're only on
learning.
earth 3 years.
Three
And
years. Yeah.
everybody, like, we expect them to, like, what's
So
wrong?
true. Yeah.
It's that is exactly where they're supposed to be. It's
Yes.
exactly what's supposed to happen. And
Yeah.
those years as they get older, if you do your job as a parent, those
Hmm.
skill you teach them those skills,
Yes. So
and
that way those.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you're not going to have that problem. So
Yeah.
deep breath, cleansing breath. I swear to you, like, no joke, it's so fantastic
Yeah.
having older twins. I do not envy
Okay.
you.
Okay. I bet. I bet. And so I always ask my twin moms or twin parents, right? What was your first reaction? Because I mean, no one really expects one, like, oh, it's cute. I see them out and about, but no one expects that they're going to be that one to have
Correct.
twins. So what was your first reaction? I have to know this.
Oh, it was actually very upsetting. I
Mm,
did not want twins. I wanted a single baby. It was never on my radar. And
mm-hmm.
so before I conceived my twinnies, I had 5 years of, like, very debilitating infertility. And at the
Okay.
time, I was very young. So I
Mm-hmm.
married my husband when I was either 21 or 22. I can't actually remember. It's so long ago now. But when we got married, I knew immediately I wanted to have kids. And I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be kind of that young mom. And
Uh-huh.
I was like, let me get this out of the way now. Let me
Yeah.
raise my kids while I have the energy, and then
Mm-hmm.
let me chill. So my mother-in-law was a young mother, and she
Okay.
actually had my husband when she was 16. So she was a
Okay.
very young mother
Yeah.
back in the 70s, in the 60s. So I really appreciated that I had, like, a very young mother-in-law, and I could always
Mm-hmm.
do things with her. So I
Yeah.
wanted that same thing for me. And we immediately started trying to have kids after, like, the wedding night, if you will, and nothing, like, was happening. And so
Yeah.
since I was so young, the doctors were like, "Oh, don't worry. Go
Mm-hmm.
home. You just got to relax. You're putting too much stress on yourself.
Mm.
Just everything." And honestly, like, Michelle, nothing happened. Nothing
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah.
And so then once we really realized that there was a problem, then you
Mm.
ran back in the day, you ran into the problem of having an insurance issue, because your insurance required you to have
Yeah.
5 years of documented infertility, which means that every single month I had to call my
Yeah.
GYN and be
Hmm.
like, I got my period. I got
Oh
my period.
wow.
Like, you had
Yeah.
to note it. So for 12 times a year, I was like, you're a failure. You're a failure is really what it
Mm.
felt like.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
then finally, after 5 years, we went to a fertility specialist, and they were like, no, duh, like, yeah, something's up. Like, this
Mm.
is easily fixable. All we have
Yeah.
to do is XYZ. And we were like, okay. And so I went through my first round of IVF after all the failed IUIs and all that junk, for those of you in the infertility world.
Mm.
And I only had two eggs. So they got 19, and
Mm-hmm.
19 fertilized, but only two made
Yeah.
it to the transfer day.
Okay.
So, and they were like, don't get your
Oh
hopes
wow.
up. Like, it's not really looking good, although they're
Mm.
great egg. Like, I just assumed that I was not going to have any. And for some
Yeah.
reason, when I went to, like, I knew that my HCG levels were rising and rising, which is funnily one of the best read articles at Twiniversity, is all about
Mhm.
HCG levels
Right.
and twins. But I remember that when you went for that 9-week ultrasound,
Hmm.
is what kind of the regular procedure was. The doctor was, like, very matter of fact, like, there's one heartbeat and
Hmm.
there's the next.
Hmm.
And I live in a very small apartment here in New York City.
Okay.
And it is a walk up. And
Oh.
I didn't want to move because my whole family lives in this building, and we're
Uh-huh.
actually living in this area since 1872.
Really? Oh wow.
Correct. It's an unknown fact about
Yeah.
Natalie Diaz, Twiniversity founder, but my
Wow. Well, then
family
yeah, I wouldn't want to
basically,
move
right?
either.
So I'm like, these are my roots, man. I want
Yeah.
to stay here. I want to raise my kids here, just like every generation previous has done
Hmm.
that. So when I heard the two, immediately I was thinking logistics. Like,
Hmm.
how am I going to get them up the stairs? And so I didn't say a word, and I looked at my husband, and my husband's very, very, very first words out of his mouth were, "We have to move." And
And you've already like, nope.
yeah, I was like, I'm like, okay, so now that we have twins, now I'm gonna have to like now figure out what that means that I'm having
Hmm.
twins. I
Yes.
know I'm gonna have a more difficult pregnancy because I'm also
Hmm.
overweight. So like automatically
Mm.
everybody's like, oh my God, you're way too fluffy. You're gonna have some issues. Now you're having twins. You have a higher chance of preeclampsia and all these other things, which I didn't even know what they were because I
Right.
just spent 5 years thinking about like all the positives, like, oh,
Yeah,
I'm gonna have
yeah.
one baby and I'm gonna put it in the carrier and I'm going to
Yeah.
go to a museum and be like, baby, that's a Picasso, right?
Right.
Because there's some
That's
other
just
really cool parts about New York City, right? So I
yes.
had like this vision and I was really upset. Honestly, I know that sounds crappy to say. I talk
Hmm.
about it a lot in like Twiniversity class. We always bring it up because I know that I'm not the only one. And sometimes people don't want to say
Yeah.
that it wasn't what their vision was.
Yeah. Hmm.
So my initial reaction was like shock and terror. I think
Yeah.
if I have to give you the two words of
Yeah.
what that was. What was your reaction?
Well, I mean, I think along the lines of what you described, I just never, one, I feel like I had my girls a little bit later. And so no one really thought I was gonna have kids. I think I was even at the fact where I was like, you know what? I'm cool with my life. Like I like this. Like I'm kind of getting in my groove, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so and then I found out I had the twins and I was just like, well, the initial appointment that I made, we only heard one heartbeat. And
Mm,
so, and it was really strong. And so we were like, oh, we got a really healthy baby. Like, it's great. And then we go back to the ultrasound appointment, and it was like as soon as she put the instrument on my belly, she was like, "Oh,
mm-hmm.
there's two in there," and I was just like, "Oh, she's funny." Like, haha, this must be like a joke, an inside joke they do with all the patients here or something. And she's like, "No, I've been doing this for 30 plus years. Like, there's two in there," and so it was like. I was crying, I was laughing. It was like all the range of emotions that you could think
Yeah.
of, I probably went through in that appointment because like you said, like now I'm thinking, okay, like I kind of just wrapped my head around having one baby because I didn't think
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna have any kids. And now two, like I'm responsible for two little human beings. Like, can I even do this? Like, are you sure? Like,
Mm,
it was terrifying. And even still to this day, I have my not my doubts, they're here. I know I'm doing a
yeah.
great job, but it's still like, oh my gosh, like I have two little people. Like every decision, excuse me, I just want to make sure that I'm doing the right
Yeah.
thing for them. So yeah, I think mine was really like shock. And then kind of funny thing is that my mother and my great grand my grand I'm sorry, my mother and my great aunt, they would always say little things like, if you did have kids, I just think you're gonna have twins. And I don't know why they thought I was this chosen
Mm.
one. So I'm putting it on them. So
Yeah, you should. That was called manifesting. And thank
right.
you. Thanks for that. So now if
Right.
they could just manifest some like mega millions, that would be nice. So
you
could you
know
order that up with your great aunt?
thank you, thank you, thank you. Right.
So I want to ask
It's
you a million questions too, which I know I'm not
oh,
allowed to
okay.
do, but it's always so funny because as somebody who hosts a podcast, it's very weird to be honestly on this side of the table because I'm
Yes.
so used to just like digging into people and be like, tell me everything. Because
Right.
that's the way, like, I get a lot out of learning from other people.
Hmm.
And clearly you do too. Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing what you do. But like at this age, at 3, like, what do you think is the biggest challenge about raising your
Ooh.
20s?
I think the biggest challenge for me is, just like how we were talking about earlier, right? With them really just kind of coming into their own,
Yeah.
and just learning like communication and just finding that way to communicate with them effectively,
Hmm.
and to, when they have those moments, when they have those meltdowns,
Yeah.
how to, because they're two different individuals, right? And so, and this was, I'll just give prime example last night. Okay. It was time for bed and meltdown. Like,
Mm.
nope, we don't want to go to bed. There's, crying, screaming, all this stuff. And so with one of them, I can just say, okay, breathe, your turn, and she's good, right? The
Good.
other one, on the other hand, she's just like, nope, that's not going to work for me. It used to, but it doesn't work anymore. And so I have to like hold her, sing to her, have a little
Yeah.
conversation with her, you know. And so learning over the past 3 years, like learning them as individuals,
Yeah.
you know, and them learning me, right? Like
Yeah.
we're new to
Truth.
each other.
It's
We're
really
just
true.
it's a new bond, it's a new relationship, new friendship, new everything, right? So
Yeah.
I think that's like the it's hard, but it's not hard. Like, you know what I mean? It's part of life is what I think I should say. It's
Yeah.
like it can be difficult and challenging at times, but that's just the natural thing of it, I believe. So,
Well, do you think
I
it's
don't know.
what you, as somebody who your family never thought that you were going to have kids, do you think that it is exceeding your expectations or is it not meeting your expectations?
What being a mother
Being a parent,
for the being
yes.
a parent? You know, I think it's exceeding my expectations. Like you know, I don't know. Because I really just didn't know. And I have like a lot of nieces and nephews, right? And so, but when they were born, I didn't get to see like that day-to-day learning and growing.
Yeah.
Because at that time I had just went to college and it was in Alabama. I'm from California. So every time I came back, my nieces and nephews, they were all in different stages, right? But I didn't see how they got to that stage. And so
Hmm.
now being a parent, it's like it really is just a really awesome experience to like watch
Good.
them grow, watch them learn and like figure things out and just become who they are, you know. And so it's really been exceeding my expectations on like on how I thought, you know, I would be or respond to it. And
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, sometimes it can be much, it can be a lot and overwhelming, but overall, I really do enjoy being their mother. And I'm like, you know, this is actually
Good.
pretty cool. Like, you know, I got
Good for you. That's
credit.
that makes me so happy. Like it makes me sad when people aren't enjoying parenthood. And if you like if anybody's out there listening and you're struggling, just do a little evaluation and just think
Hmm.
like what would you want for your kids? How
Yeah.
would you want your kids to like what's your goal? And then also I
Mhm.
think a lot of times honestly, Nichelle, that people don't really talk to their partners about what their
Mhm.
partners want. Because if
True,
you
yeah.
don't have like if you're not like what's my goal? Right? Of
Mhm.
course, our goal is to raise happy, healthy kids, blah, blah, blah.
Right,
Yes, we
right.
know that. But like, what's the goal? Do we want, them to be good communicators? Do we want them to
Mhm.
have a certain type of confidence? Because if we don't know like what we're aiming for, how do we know that we succeeded?
Right, right. This
So
is
just
true.
like think about like what being a successful parent, what would that mean to you? What would that
Mhm.
mean to your partner? And
Mhm.
then try to make that happen for each other.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree.
See, that's how we
So
roll.
and so you were saying, you know, with your you know, you and your husband and you've lived in this community or in this building for generations, right? So
Mhm.
you already have your village, as they
Yep,
say,
very
right?
much so.
And so I was going to ask, you know, how was that like did you feel like you really needed that in that moment in that space and how did everybody come to help you and to support you in that time when you brought the babies home and it's
Yeah.
like, hey, we here.
Oh, it was a lot. And community is a very big deal to me. And
Hmm.
having a village is something that I have actually never taken for granted. So
Hmm.
I've always, even as a little girl, I knew how special it was to have everybody around us. So not only do we live in an area where we've lived for generations, but I also live multi-generationally vertically. So
Yeah.
instead of
Hmm.
having my mom live down the road, my mom lives below my apartment. And my
Yeah.
aunts and uncles live upstairs. And my grandmother, thank God, was still alive at that
Hmm.
time. And she lived above me too. So I had everybody close by, but it wasn't only the people that I share blood with, it's
Hmm.
also the people that literally live in this neighborhood. So if
Yeah.
I
Hmm.
it's a very unique New York City neighborhood because you'll see
Uh-huh.
shows where like I don't talk to my neighbor and
Yeah.
I don't like wait. This is a very old-timey area where there's
Hmm.
families here as old as mine, and you grew like I grew up with their granddaughters and they've been here.
Right.
So community has always been a very important thing to me, and it's like a huge reason why I started Twiniversity, because
Hmm.
not everybody is that lucky. Not
Yeah.
everybody has a community, and there's people who have communities that they don't have access to. Like
Hmm.
there's our military moms that are like on a base
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
someplace, and even though they do have an entire community, they don't have access to them. So
Yeah.
I really wanted to make sure that there was kind of like a home base for all
Hmm.
twin parents all over the world. And that's like a huge reason why I
Yeah.
started Twiniversity. But for me specifically, having them around was a blessing and a curse also.
Mm-hmm.
Because while when you have kids, which Michelle, I'm positive that you know, especially if your family is close enough that they're like
Mm-hmm.
telling you they're manifesting things for you, sometimes family could actually be overwhelming and ruin an experience.
Yeah.
But they don't do it in spite. They
Right.
do it to like
Mm-hmm.
as a form of like protection,
Uh-huh.
and they want to save you because they're worried about you. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when families, like especially mothers and mothers-in-law, like they don't know that it could be a little too much. And
Mm-hmm.
when parents first come home, truthfully, this is going to sound absolutely crazy. I think the pandemic was actually a weird side asset.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw families that, partners had to like buckle down, and
Yeah.
where a typical dad may not have changed that first diaper, it may have been a sister or a
Mm-hmm.
mother-in-law. Dads would like, they had to get in there.
Yeah,
There was
yeah.
no choice. And
Mm-hmm.
so during the pandemic, I noticed that dads were really getting down and dirty, and this was making me so happy. And it's something now that I've like put into the class. And I'm like, dude, if you could have the first 24 hours with no visitors,
Yeah.
that's going to be the best case scenario,
Yeah.
because you need a minute to kind of get your sea legs. Like, what is this? What am I doing? Do I want to
Mm-hmm.
breastfeed? What the heck just happened to my body? Did I have a vaginal C-section? So it could be overwhelming.
Yeah.
I delivered early. So I had this 30-day kind of honeymoon, as this is also going to sound
Okay.
crazy, where the kids were in the NICU.
Yeah.
And so
Same.
it
Mm-hmm.
was it was a transitionary period where
Mm-hmm.
I had the babies being taken care of, which then I could tell you I had guilt because I delivered early, and I can
Mm.
give you all the stuff that went along
Yes.
with that literally still to this day, 18 years later, there's still elements of it that I'm still healing from.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, I think having that time when I came home with the babies, it was a little wilder, but I
Mm-hmm.
was very sure of what I needed to do. And my family was a little fearful because we had never had preemies in the house, let alone twins. So
Mm-hmm.
now I have like these tiny little 4-pounders, and
Yeah.
nobody like what my daughter needed to be like fed a certain way, otherwise she'd throw up all over the house. And so everybody was, I'm not gonna say they were a little fearful of them. They didn't
Yeah.
know how to react. And that I think put a little bit of the power back on my dish.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to say, hey, Ma, can you do this?
Yeah.
Instead of my mom being like on top of me. But my mom to
Right.
this day, I mean, my mom's still on top of me. I have to
Yeah.
be honest, but that's just a mom.
That
And I think
is.
I'm going to do the same thing with my
Uh-huh.
kids. So she's been a very, very good example. My whole family, not as much. There's definitely times where my husband had to say to people like, you had your turn, this is
Mm-hmm.
her turn,
Yeah.
and just could you respect that?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm lucky that, he was a really, really good gatekeeper.
Good, good.
And
Yeah.
for somebody who really didn't want to have kids, he's a magnificent
Right.
daddy-o and husband. I don't know how I got so lucky that I'm still married to this man. I don't know how he hasn't left, Michelle, honestly. I would have left 12 times over. I would
Oh
have been
my
like, I'm
goodness.
out. That's it. Once it was the twins, I would have been like, I didn't sign up for this. But I think that my family really played a very instrumental part. And in the book that you have, there's actually two dedications. So my
Okay.
initial book with the orange cover was dedicated to my sister,
Oh, okay,
because
nice.
my sister stopped her world to help me, and I
Oh.
didn't want help. So I was like, we're never having a nanny. I'm never having help, which is not very
Mm-hmm.
typical here in New York City. Like it was definitely
Yeah.
like there's a system, right? You have the
Right.
baby, you get a baby nurse. This is what you do. I was like, no, I waited so long for these puppies. I don't
Yeah,
want
I'm doing this.
anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. But I knew that I really couldn't because I was trying to pump exclusively. I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
get them to latch, and I had a very weird
Yes.
breastfeeding experience, hence why I became a lactation consultant. And my sister was somebody who really knows how to toe that line. So
Okay.
she
Awesome.
knows like how I need help,
Mm-hmm.
but making me feel supported, but not
Mm-hmm.
feeling controlled.
Yeah, I
And that is
gotcha.
very hard to do. And I feel like a lot of sisters can, and there's even some best friends that can.
Mm-hmm.
Moms, not always so great at that. But my sister,
Right.
like, she did everything for me. So initially, my book was dedicated to her, and just be like, you didn't have to do this. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, she didn't have to. She didn't have to say, like, I'm going to take leave from work
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm going to help you. And my husband at the time had a job that was just way too ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And he was never home. And I was just by
Oh, wow.
myself a lot. And
Yeah, yeah.
He since has not, he left that job when the kids were 3 because I'm like, dude,
Okay.
not
Someone's got
what
to
I
give.
signed up for. Yeah, like this isn't it. But then I did change the dedication after that when I wrote this book, and I talked to my sister about it, and I'm like, Sissy, I call her Sissy Mouse. And I'm like, Sissy Mouse, I'm going to change it because I think there's something else that I have to say. And so
Hmm.
this book I actually dedicated to my dad.
Oh,
And
okay.
my father had passed away, and I really thought about like what a big impact he had on my life. And I
Hmm.
don't think that dads of today really realize how much of an impact they have on their kids.
Yes. Yes.
Everybody's looking, especially when it comes to twins, everybody's looking at
Hmm.
the mom and like your
Yes.
maternal instincts and all these things. But I'm not saying that my mom wasn't fantastic. She clearly still is. But
Yeah.
my dad was just something else, man.
Hmm.
I could look back and I know I was a daddy's girl, but
Yeah.
he was just such an extraordinary father. And he was also such an extraordinary partner.
Yeah.
Like now, like I didn't know that like my dad was giving my mom a break when he took us to the park. But like
Hmm.
we had like a very regimented, like we went every Sunday. This
Yeah.
is what we did. And I think dads need to know that their daughters could be telling this story, their sons could be telling this story. And it's
Yes.
important to think about that when they are born of
Hmm.
what do you want that story to be?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I changed it and I made it to my Papa Bear.
Oh, well, that's beautiful. And I agree. I have a really close relationship with my father. I moved back here once the girls were born, back to California when the girls were born. He's like 10 minutes away. And my mom, she's actually retired and she lives with me. She helps tremendously. Like hands
Good.
down, I don't know what I'd do without this woman, and really it was an opportunity, I believe, for me to get to know my mother on a different level, right? And so at the time when I had the girls, they were born in Miami. And so she came out there and she was with me. And, we really had time to really just like sit down and talk as adult women.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was trying to think, like, I don't think I've ever had this time. And not that we have a bad relationship or anything like that, but, I've just been doing my thing and I'll
Mm-hmm.
come to visit. But then if I'm visiting, I'm seeing everybody else. And so I think that was really, really instrumental in our relationship and our growth. And as me being a
Right.
mom and knowing like, oh, well, this is why she did the things that she did, or,
Mm-hmm.
and just understanding her on that level. And then with my dad, like, oh my gosh, like the girls, they just, Papa this, Papa, they always want to call him. They always want to, and he has this little saying that he says with them. And it's just the cutest thing. And so the village, I mean, and my best friends that I grew up with, I have two that are here in California, like everybody plays just like this major role. And I really am so grateful for them because, I know there are a lot of people that don't have that opportunity. They don't have someone that they can like just lean
Yeah.
on, And so, yeah, I think it's amazing. And thank you for writing this book. And
Aw.
so I want to say, like, how did that come about? I know you're, the founder of twiniversity.com, but how did that translate into you becoming an author? And
Oh,
why, and how do you feel about the success and the magnitude of what it is
dude.
today?
I honestly, I don't even know what happened. I have to be honest with you. There is times that I like go to bed and I just can't even understand how this became a thing. And now I know it was hard work. Like I'm not going to say like this was accidental. I
Yeah,
really bust
yeah.
my butt every day.
Mhm.
I do it in a very weird way because I wake up every day to find the me
Mhm.
that I didn't have any like other twin mom support.
Mhm.
And I was so scared. And I
Yeah.
did have that early delivery and I didn't have that good breastfeeding experience. I really wanted to try to find a way to kind of put the cart before the horse
Mhm.
and say, could I find somebody? And I'm a nerd. I mean, honestly, it's weird, but I'm like a super duper nerd. And I've always been like very a new adopter of technology.
Mhm.
And so I started this in 2009. I started twiniversity.com when like blogs were a thing.
Yeah,
So I was
right.
able to like build it. So I started my whole business with $138. That's all that I
Okay.
had. So Twiniversity was born out of change. It was a change,
Mm.
like a jar of a Costco pretzel jar that we
Yeah.
always just put change in.
Uh-huh.
And my husband was like, yeah, just do whatever you want with the change. And I'm like, I'm going to start a business and this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, sounds good. That's, but I've always been somebody who I need to work. Work is
Mhm.
very fulfilling to me.
Uh-huh.
So even if I had like a lot of money in the bank and or married like a super wealthy person, I still need to
Yeah, your
feel
own.
productive. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't think everybody really understands that because I have friends that are like, you are crazy.
Yeah.
What are you doing? And I'm like, nope. I was like, this is how we do things. And I always think back to that being raised in that community,
Mm-hmm.
that if there's a way that I can make things better for not for the people around me, and
Mm-hmm.
then in exchange to be good for myself too, that would be pretty
Mm-hmm.
great. So the way that this thing all came about was my real world experience was I actually worked in luxury African travel.
Oh,
That
wow.
is that is my real what I really did for my career
Okay.
previous to having twinnies. So I started working for this company called Park East when I was in college. And I
Okay.
knew that I wanted to go into travel because I was like, dude, I want to see the world, but I am super poor. And how am I going to possibly do this? And I remember that I had a friend that was a travel agent.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, this is the way to do it. You get all these
Right.
deals come through. And I'm like, oh, so like they come through the fax machine. I'm like, what? So I was determined. I was like, let me do this. And it
Yeah.
was also like once I got married, it was a great distractor for that
Mm-hmm.
infertility issue. So
Gotcha.
I was like, I'm just going to keep going.
Yeah.
So I worked for this company for almost 10 years,
Mhm.
and I worked in marketing and I worked in sales. And I
Yeah.
loved it because I'm going to tell you like truthfully, like Michelle, my
Mm-hmm.
geography of Africa was very disgusting. And so before I
Okay.
worked for this company, like I couldn't tell you a Zambia from Zimbabwe. So
Right. So
I
you're like,
just
let me go do
remembered
some
that,
research.
right? I'm like, let me see this. So when I did get married, I was working there, and my boss was like, it's going to be cheaper to go to Africa than it is going to be to go to the Caribbean. And I was like, sign me up.
Right.
Let's do this. So I went over there, and my like the very first trip I went to East Africa, and we did all the
Nice.
typical like safari things and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, going as like a representative of the company, like
Yeah.
they took me to extra places. They're like, well,
Right. Right.
let me show you this other lodge where people go, and let me show you
Mm-hmm.
this experience, and let me show you that. And when I came back, I was on a soapbox. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Why is everybody not booking trips
Right.
to Africa? It
Right.
doesn't make sense to me. Why is anybody, I love me some Turks and Caicos, don't get me wrong, but
Right.
this is something that people have to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
to see it. It smells different. It feels different. It's a
Mm-hmm.
whole different thing. And I, being a very urban New Yorker, am like, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna get eaten by a lion. I'm never gonna make it live to tell. So coming home, I started going to like trade shows with my boss, and he's like, tell them. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I never thought that I would
Yeah.
go. And then when I was finishing college, I had to write this big thesis paper, and I wrote it
Mm-hmm.
about people's misconception about travels to Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And my
Nice.
boss was like, in it. He was like,
Yeah.
boom, this is what you're going to do. He's like, we're going to take this paper. You're going to go everywhere. You're going to tell everybody.
Yeah.
And so
Oh,
then I
that's
started
awesome.
working. Oh, it was fantastic.
I bet. I
Absolutely fantastic.
bet.
And still to this day, I still have connections with companies
Mm-hmm.
that go there because I am dying to take my twins because they need
Yes. Yes.
to have that full circle. But
Mm-hmm.
when I got pregnant, I was like, okay, we're going to put a pause on everything. It was a little bit after 9/11 here, and the travel industry was still really suffering, and
Mm-hmm.
our city was kind of still hurting. And I was like, okay, this is what we're going to focus on. And then we did the IVF, and then I got pregnant, and my husband's just like, chill. So I did work a
Yeah.
few days a
Yeah.
week still in Africa. And then I remember when I was 13 weeks pregnant, I went to a Manhattan Twins Club meeting.
Okay.
And so we have a local group here, and I went, and I can remember that there was one person that like led the whole meeting,
Mm-hmm.
and she told the story of her experience. And she has a very typical New York experience. Like she
Mm-hmm.
lives uptown and has a larger apartment, and was,
Mm-hmm.
had a nanny and all
Yeah.
that good stuff. So like she had this very like, okay, this very New Yorky
Mm-hmm.
experience. Now
Yeah.
living where I am, despite the fact that I'm not, I mean, I am very New Yorky, but I don't live a typical New York experience. Like I get
Hmm.
coupons and like
Yeah.
I don't have a bathtub. I don't even have a closet. Like I could tell you like these crazy things that we
Yeah,
have, but we
yeah.
live in a tenement building. So I remember going to that and then coming home and then going through my whole pregnancy. And then that first kind of month, all I could think about was her experience
Hmm.
and the things that she did. And
Yeah.
I wasn't living up to that.
Hmm.
And because of that, it actually made me feel like a failure.
Yes. Yeah.
And I was like, I can't breastfeed and I don't want a nanny and I don't have room. And like, I could
Yes.
think about all those things. And I'm like, God, that's horrible. So in hindsight, like it took me 7 months to kind of come out of that and realize, like, why was I listening to this woman's story?
Right.
Like what
Totally
exactly
different
happened,
lives.
Michelle?
Yeah.
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 Like
Hmm.
why did I think that was a thing? So at 7 months, I went to her and I said, hey, would it be okay if I changed the meeting around and if I volunteered? And
Hmm.
she's like, yeah, you could do whatever you want. And at that time, her kids were already getting older and she was
Hmm.
kind of phasing out of it. And she's like, yeah, if you want to
Yeah.
do things, boo, you do what you got to do. So instead of having one person on the panel, I had made all these friends and I had
Hmm.
one person who was like the breastfeeding mom, one that was the
Gotcha.
working mom. I had the single dad. I had like a
Hmm.
whole panel of people. So when you came to a meeting, it
You can,
wasn't one person's
yes.
opinion, it was a variety of
Yeah. And you
opinions.
can find someone that you can identify with. Yes.
What
I
you
love
need,
that.
because I don't
Hmm.
want you having that experience that I did.
Hmm.
And it was April of, I don't remember what year it was, but my kids were already like bigger and I was
Hmm.
very, very active and doing everything with the club. And it was April and it was raining. And this woman said, I don't know why you just don't write a book. And I said, because I am not a writer. That was my response. Like, I
It's not
don't
my
do
thing.
that.
I
Yeah, I'm not, I don't even know why you would say that. I'm a speaker, if anything.
don't
So she was like very like firm, like, you know, so much and you could put these things together. And even if you just made us a cheat sheet, like that would be cool.
know.
So I really was like, maybe I am a writer. Maybe I can do this. So I came
Right?
home that night and I made all the chapters, which are actually still the chapters in the book. And I
Hmm.
wrote down what it would be and how it was broken down because I had been to so many Manhattan Twin Club meetings
Yeah,
that
yeah.
and people would be out, like the woman who breastfed exclusively, she wouldn't make it because she was late at work. So I
Hmm.
would sit in for her and I would be like, well, what Leslie would typically say is blah 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 blah
Yeah.
blah. So I
Yeah.
had all these different hats that I could wear with all of this insane knowledge base
Hmm.
that I was like, this is what this is how the book is going to be written. And then I had a friend who worked in publishing because it is New York City, right? So this is just like
Right.
the lady around the block. And I
Right.
said to her, like, I have an idea about a book and I don't
Hmm.
know if this is good or bad. And she's like, everybody's got an idea about a book and you got to see how it goes. And I said, but what
Hmm.
if I built a community and then I basically would have my own audience to sell the book to? And
Yeah.
she's like, now we're talking. And I was like,
Okay.
done. So I basically did that. I started Twiniversity and then I
Okay.
noticed that when people would ask questions, I was like, oh, I didn't include that in the book. So
Hmm.
then I would start adding things in because
Oh,
as an
wow.
urban
Yeah.
person,
Hmm.
like I don't know about a car. Like good for you in your trunk. Like that's
Yeah.
nice. So I started
Right.
adding little bits and pieces into it while growing the community at the same time. And
Wow. Okay.
when I felt that the community, and then honestly, I actually forgot about the book because I was like, dude, this community is like, this is where my heart is.
Yeah,
Because there was
yeah.
no way to like connect, California and New York before Twiniversity. It was
Yeah, yeah.
always so like disjointed. And there was
Hmm.
no way that we could talk to each other. And I
Yeah.
hated that because the problems are the same no matter where you are. Forget about California
Yes.
to New York, then to Thailand to
Hmm.
California. It doesn't matter. We're all in the
Yes.
same kind of way. So I then wrote that first book and
Wow.
they're like, it's not going to sell. Don't get excited. But it sold within literally a week. So we had
Wow.
offers because the editors were like, this proposal resonated more than any book on the market. Because
Nice.
my editor does have twins. She is a Penguin. And
Boom.
that's what it is. That it's like our little community. If
Yes, yes.
you don't know unless you have twins.
Hmm.
So I love that
This is so
she
true.
acknowledged that and was like, done. And
Yeah.
then the rest, as they say, is history. And then from the
Hmm.
book, we had the website to the YouTube channel to the podcast to,
Yeah, yeah.
the millions of handouts to the classes. So
Mm-hmm.
I just kept growing it. And it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't even like a greedy growing. It was
Yeah.
like, how else can I find her?
Yeah.
How
Mm-hmm.
else, like, are you an auditory person? Are you a visual learner? Like,
Right,
how could
right.
I let you know I exist so that
Mm-hmm.
you know that I'm going to be here when you need me?
Yeah.
And that's literally how the book and Twiniversity
Wow.
happens. And just before I came on with you, we had a team meeting and we were discussing mental health. And
Mm-hmm.
with this twin mom that that I was helping, she had like a very traumatic delivery. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm noticing that, hospitals, there's definitely good hospitals, Michelle, like, please, we do know this, but
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, people aren't getting the support that they really need after birth,
Yes. Yeah.
and they're being discharged with a lot of question marks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not cool to me.
Yeah.
And I
I agree.
feel, yeah, I'm disappointed. I'm
Mm-hmm.
disappointed that people are having this experience, and I don't want that to happen. And
Yeah.
truthfully, like, anyway, and that's why you're like, I can't, like, I can't believe you're doing this podcast. Dude, are you crazy? Any way that I could let people know I'm here so that they don't feel alone, I'm
Mm-hmm.
in. Like, I
Yeah.
am in. That is, to me,
Excuse
that
me.
is the kind of golden egg that I'm trying to achieve here. Because if
Yeah.
if people in the hospital aren't going to get their support and the doctors aren't going to answer questions, and of course I can't do all of that and I can't be
Yeah.
everywhere, but
Mm-hmm.
if there is some way that I could create something that people did feel connection through our Facebook group, through
Yeah.
our,
Yeah.
our online community, whatever it is, I want
Mm-hmm.
people to have a better experience. And I want them to
Yeah.
know, like, here's what's normal,
Mm-hmm.
and
Of
here's what's
course.
typical. And you're not, like, you're gonna get through this.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the history of Twiniversity in a nutshell. But every single day I wake up and I say, how could we make this better for Nichelle?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now, like, I'll say, like, how
Well,
you have 3-year-olds that are having that, what can I do for you? And that's
mm-hmm.
that's kind of where we go, man. And I'm honored that everybody kind of picked up what I was putting down. Like,
Yeah.
everybody got
Well,
it.
look, I appreciate you, okay? I mean, even just like from the Instagram page, sometimes it's like little jokes here and there or something that like only if you're a twin mom you get, or like little things here and there. And by the way, thank you so much for sharing my post. I meant to say that earlier too. Like I
Anytime.
really appreciate that. But yeah, it really is just about community. And I really appreciate you doing this and you having the bravery and the courage to even do it, because like you said, I know it's a lot of work. I wrote a children's book for my girls, and I'm still very new in the stages. I just had it published, but it still was work, and it's still finding that time to even do it. And so I appreciate you wanting to reach everyone that's out there that's in the same situation or that had a similar situation as you, with the girls. I'm always just saying my girls.
It's your girls.
With twins. And so thank you, thank you.
It's
And
my pleasure.
congratulations on all the success that
Oh,
has come
thanks.
from that, and all the different avenues and endeavors, all that good stuff, girl. That it's major, and I appreciate it, and I'm sure I'm
Oh,
not the only one. So congratulations again. And
oh,
so
thank you, Mama.
yeah, girl, no, I'm here for it, okay? And so I know you were saying earlier, that you used to work in travel. I'm a flight attendant now. Been doing it almost 10 years. So I definitely got the travel bug, girl. I'm right there with you. When you were
Good.
like travel, I was like, oh my God, see, I knew we were here. But, the holidays are coming around, and
Mm,
one of your chapters you talk about traveling with your littles, and that it's like traveling with the circus, I think is what
mm,
the what
correct.
the chapter was called. And so and I also do kind of like this Instagram segment where it's like ask a flight attendant. And one of the questions that someone recently asked me was, what's my biggest tip for traveling with infants, right? My personal tip was less is best, because you already have your hands full with so much. And the last thing you want to worry about is like, okay, this bag, this car seat,
Hmm.
this. I'm like, check all the big stuff and pack the essentials, right? Toys, you don't even need toys. All the babies love to play with the plastic cups on the plane. Don't know
It's the
what it
truth.
is, but they do, right? And so, what is your one advice, or your advice that, overall for traveling with twins, especially?
Well, my first piece of advice is go. Don't
Yes.
let
Okay.
twins hold you back. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times when people have to, they get very overwhelmed. But if there's a
Mm-hmm.
way that you could do it and a way that you could be supported on the plane or in, on the road trip or the train, whatever it is,
Yeah.
go. don't let life hold you back because you
Mhm.
got a bonus baby.
Right.
If you would have done it with one,
You
do
could
it
do it
with
with
two.
two.
That's
Yeah.
just what's got to happen. The next thing that, which I actually get a lot of comments about still to this day, which is so sweet. I always recommend that people pack things in Ziploc bags. So you
Hmm.
have an entire set of stuff in one Ziploc bag. So when you
Yeah.
go
That makes
to the
sense.
bathroom to change a 20, you have diapers, you have a few wipes, you have
Hmm.
an outfit, you have a
Yeah.
garbage bag in there. So you have a whole set of stuff. So if you're going to take 120 to the bathroom, you just take one of
The
your little
little, yep.
packets out and you're done. You're not taking that giant bag because I can't fit in there, but barely
It's
without a bag,
tiny.
let alone a 20. So always pack in ways where you like a grab and go.
Hmm.
And then I actually recommend even when you get like to a hotel, you pack the outfits for the days, everything in Ziploc bags. You could reuse those Ziploc bags 7 million
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
But then that way, when you get someplace, you're not like, what are they going to wear? Or what
Uh-huh.
am I going to do? So you
Hmm.
literally, I would remember when my 20s were little, everybody would have like a pair of shorts, a pair of underwear, a shirt, and a pair of
Yeah.
socks. And if we would go to Disney and it would say Johnny on it, and
Yeah.
then it said
Uh-huh.
Johnny day one
Yeah.
or whatever it was, so that he knew. And I'd be like,
Right,
oh, we're going
exactly.
to, what princess party. So we would be able to plan accordingly. So
Yeah.
that I would do even from the teeny tiny little stage. But my
Hmm.
best tip, my number one, like honestly, which I would tell every single person in the world,
Hmm.
is when you use your baby bottles.
Hmm.
And initially people start off with a level one. And then after time, they'll transition to a level two nipple, no matter what bottle you're on, just to
Hmm.
have a faster flow. When
Yeah.
you're flying, I recommend that you always keep some of those level ones and you
Mhm.
use the level ones, especially for infants, because since they have to take tinier sips, they'll
Mhm.
swallow more. So it's the equivalent of them chewing gum.
Oh, okay.
So
Yes,
it'll
yes, yes.
help with takeoff and landing. And instead of just having it
Yes.
be like milk, like give them like cherry juice or pear juice or something that's going to be so like extraordinary that they're
Yeah.
going to want it. So it's going to help them relieve that pressure of their ears for takeoff and landing if you use those level one nipples. That's my
Yeah.
number one tip.
Okay. See, again, I wish I had known this when I
Sorry.
first traveled with my girls, because let me tell you, I traveled with them when they were 6 months. And I was just like the night before, I'm like, okay, what do I pack? Like, what do I and I've seen people come on the airplane, travel with their families all the time, but it's my turn. Like, I'm just like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
well, what do I need? And we got on there. First of all, they sleep throughout the majority of the flight as an infant. So as long as you have a bottle ready for them to
Yeah,
go when they wake up, they were good. So I'm like, I have all this stuff for nothing. So I was like, look, y'all, this is my personal experience. Don't pack all that stuff on the plane. Just you'll get
truth.
that when you get there. So yes. So just keep that in mind, y'all. Holidays coming up around the corner. Less is best, okay?
Absolutely.
And so, with that being said, like you're also a certified lactation counselor, right? And me personally, I had issues with that. And I've always been, and I know this has nothing to do with it, but it's just my own silly thinking. But I've always, had larger breasts. And so I was like, oh, I'm ready. I'm built for this. Like, hands down, my babies are going to be good. But when the time came, I really struggled with it. It was, and I don't know, and maybe you can shed light on this. I don't know if it's because I had them a little bit early, and was it like maybe my body wasn't ready for that yet? I don't know. But so I would kind of do both, like pumping and breastfeeding when I could. But
Mhm.
so is that one of the reasons why you became a certified lactation counselor? Was that a struggle of yours, or you just wanted to have that so you can help other people, or a combination of both?
It's kind of a combination of both. So I know people who are lawyers and doctors, and like
Mm-hmm.
every few years, they have to go for like the recertification, and
Mm-hmm.
they have to like the continuing education.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why people in my area aren't held to the same standards, right? Like as a
Mm-hmm.
birth educator and as a parenting educator, I honestly feel like you guys should expect me to always be on top of my game. So
Mm-hmm.
for a while, I like every few years I go for another certification, which is a lot to keep up because then you have to keep up everything. But
Yeah.
I really wanted to be like, I know there was so much biology behind breastfeeding, and I was never the best student, especially when it came to any of the sciences, that there
Mm-hmm.
had to be something more, right? So I had a very, very bad breastfeeding experience.
Mm.
When the 20s were in the NICU, like they kind of force you to pump because breast milk is deemed
Yeah.
medically necessary for a
Mm-hmm.
premature baby. And because I too have larger breasticles, that I couldn't see my kids. So like my babies were so tiny and my breast was so
Hmm.
large, I could not see them.
Yeah, yeah.
Depending, and like one nipple's like over here looking that way,
Right.
the other one's looking that way. So like
Yes.
I'm like, what do I do? And I was like, it's
Hmm.
too complicated. It's just too much with their little
Yeah.
wires. I was like, forget it. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
pumped exclusively. And
Hmm.
it becomes like this love hate relationship, right? So you're like, you're loving that my body is producing milk, but I have to say, I also had a lot of postpartum, like I had a huge issue. So
Hmm.
I don't know if it was depression. I really think it was anxiety. I think it was more
Yeah.
anxiety. So
Hmm.
now we're learning, right? Back in the day, it was just postpartum depression. Now it's postpartum mood disorders. It could be anxiety, it could be depression, it could be psychosis. Like there's so many
Yeah.
things that could happen
Hmm.
after. And it does happen more with people who deliver early because instead of our bodies kind of, easing into a landing, they crash
Hmm.
land because
Yeah,
of that
yeah.
premature delivery.
Hmm.
So between like the tiny babies, my giant boobs, having to pump, and I felt like honestly, like Michelle, I felt like such a failure that I couldn't hold him in my body. And I
Hmm.
delivered at 34 weeks. Like, I mean, I made it to
Same.
34
Yeah.
weeks. So
Hmm.
like I should now I'm proud that I made it to 34 weeks. But back
Hmm.
then, like you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know. Like this is so early. So I knew as a type A control freak that although I couldn't
Same.
control when they were born, I could control my pumping. Now,
Hmm.
here is where poop takes a turn. I actually pumped so much that I overproduced and I gave myself chronic mastitis.
Oh,
So
wow.
after my babies were home, I was
Hmm.
then back in and out of the hospital with breast infections. And at
Mm.
one point I had a 104 fever, and I can remember that my fever was so high I was hallucinating. And
Oh,
my husband
wow.
had to rush me to the hospital. Now, in hindsight, I would say, like, as I think maybe it's a New Yorker and the type A too, more, 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 more. The more I pump, the more milk. The more milk I
Hmm.
have, the better they're going to be. But like Nichelle, honestly, nobody was drinking that milk. That
Yeah.
was totally unnecessary. You produce the amount of milk that your babies need as
Hmm.
their little bellies grow.
Yeah.
I was not a wet nurse. I was not selling breast milk on the black
Yeah.
market. I don't know why. I somehow got in my head that the more that I pumped, I could somehow make up for the deficit of
Hmm.
me delivering early.
Yes, yes.
And this was my weird, now in hindsight, I know how bad that was for me, both
Hmm.
psychologically and physically,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
you're not supposed to do that. And years later, I was just like, I just need to do this. And
Yeah.
I've had enough of this. I'm tired of,
Hmm.
every time I had a lactation question, I would have to call somebody and I'm like, I'm just going
Hmm.
to do it. So I
Yeah.
buckled down, I paid for the course, I took the course, and then I was so pissed because the course, which is a week long of extraordinarily long days and tons of like, I have to know about, forget about mammary glands. You have to know about the hormones that your brain produces. I
Oh,
mean,
wow.
there is
Yeah.
like, holy crap. I had like cards and lactogenesis, and I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I remember that when we were on the last day of the class,
Hmm.
I said, like, I remember raising my hand and I said, well, when are we going to talk about twins?
Hmm.
Because we went through the whole class. We talked about prematurity. We talked about special needs. We talked about
Hmm.
Down syndrome. We talked about cleft palate. And I'm like, hey, and when are we going to do this? And then they literally said, see me after class. And so after class, I went and they're like, we don't really discuss a lot about twins in the class.
Wow.
You could find this information in this kind of handbook that we have. And I was like, this doesn't make any freaking sense.
Mm-mm.
Why? Like, and now, like, statistically, you have a greater chance of having twins than of having a child that has Down syndrome, which I'm not saying that either that one is more important than the other,
Right,
but
right. I
why
get you.
aren't we covering things equally?
Yeah.
So I was very, very frustrated.
Hmm.
And I could remember that when the class was done, I was like, this is some kind of BS. And I am only going to work with twins. And if
Yeah.
I just work with twins, I'm going to get the knowledge that I need and I'll have the experience. I'll have the actual piece of paper that says you can
Yes.
play with me, but
Yeah.
I'm going to really learn this and I'm going to
Yeah.
learn the strategies and what we're going to do. And that's kind of what I still do. It's my favorite thing I do. Like if I
Really?
had to say, like Nichelle, if I have to say my end game, like when I am 70,
Yeah.
I want to have like a tiny little lactation practice. And
Uh-huh.
I just want people to know, like, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
You got this. It's going
Mm-hmm.
to be like breastfeeding should never hurt, ever,
Mm.
ever, ever. And if it hurts, there's going to be a reason. It could be a latch. It could
Yeah.
be that you didn't look at yourself in a mirror to see that one nipple is north and one
Yeah.
is southwest.
Right,
You have to
right.
know where these things are.
Right.
It's
That's
not
important.
like,
That's
you know, like a
important.
dirty movie of like the perfect nipples. There
Yeah.
is no such thing. Whatever
Yeah.
Mother Nature gave you is what we're going to work with. And there's a
Yeah.
way that this could happen. And I
Mm-hmm.
also think that it goes back to my whole African experience
Mm-hmm.
and seeing that they didn't have a lactation consultant, they had their village.
Yeah.
And so when
Mm-hmm.
you had your baby, there was like one person in the village that was like
Mm-hmm.
super knowledgeable. And she would come over, grab a baby, grab your boob, throw it on, and be like,
Yeah.
boom, this is it. I'm not going to touch you. I'm going to teach you how to do it because
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
much more of a fan of teaching you how to fish
Right,
than just throwing a baby on you.
right.
But I was like, I want to be that person. I
Yeah.
want to be that person. And I want my village to just be my twin families.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's hysterical because there's so many like singletons that are
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, like, can't we play with you? And I'm like, listen to me. I could refer you to somebody, like I will, because that's, you know, that's where you should go. But I
Mm-hmm.
really just want to play in my twin mom lane
Yeah.
because I do understand. And I think about I think about that woman in the village, and I think about how lost this person is like
Mm-hmm.
in front of me. And
Yeah.
it is, I would say 80% psychological of
It
just
is.
making
Yeah.
you, because like the freaking internet like convinces us that it's got to be a way.
Yes.
Can we just stop
Yes.
that? There is no like, and I say I have an episode on our podcast that's called Stop Shooting on Yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, could we just stop? There is no should. Who
Yeah.
made this up?
Yes.
It is
Yes.
what it is. Could we just figure out how this is going to work for you and the
Yeah.
twins and your
Yeah.
partner? Like, what's their
Mhm.
role in this too? What do they want to get out of this? So
Yeah.
I love lactation from the bottom of my heart. It is probably one of the best things that I have done, and I continuously keep it updated when I take classes
Mm-hmm.
on tongue ties and lip ties and all
Yeah.
that good stuff because I'm noticing, like I said before, like people are not getting the experience in a
They're
hospital like they
not.
should.
They're not. And I'm one of them. Like I said, I had issues with it. And I had the pillow, right? Because I'm watching YouTube. As soon as I found out I was having twins, I was like on YouTube, Googling all this stuff, right? And so, I had my pillows and it was just like nothing was working.
Yeah.
One, she would latch on, but it's like I wasn't producing enough. And then the nurses, they were in the NICU for about 2 weeks. And
Hmm.
so when I would go and visit, no one was really there to say like, hey, do you need help or anything? There was one nurse though, and she was amazing. So I would always go at night because I knew like that was her shift. And
Good.
so she was like, look, you're probably just stressed. This is a lot. Like you just gave birth to twins. They're in the NICU. Like I get it. So she's like, they had the little room that you can go into, excuse me, and she's like, just go relax. And that was the first time that I was able to like pump more than just like this much,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And I was like so proud. I was like, girl, look. And so but even when I got home, it was still, because it's still a stressful situation. Now I
Hmm.
have my girls home, and just trying to learn like what it is I need to do and all this stuff. And so I still was able to pump some, but I don't think it was enough to really sustain both babies. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And so I'm really appreciative. I know this whole thing, I'm like, I'm so appreciative for you doing this, but I really am, because this is stuff that I wish I had known,
Yeah.
or just had that resource, someone to be like, hey girl, like you're good. Like
Good.
there's nothing wrong with you.
Ugh.
This is totally normal, because I was really excited and looking forward to it. Like that was like one of the things I'm like, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
me
breastfeed my
too.
babies. You know
Me
what I
too.
mean?
I wanted like
Yeah.
that experience, like on
Mm-hmm.
a baby story on TLC.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wanted kind of a
Yeah.
much more organic experience. I wanted a much more organic delivery. I wanted a much more
Mm-hmm.
like I just wanted those things and I didn't get them. And nobody told me I could have them. Like
Yeah.
I didn't like it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a choice. It was like just make me, I just want to be alive and I just want my babies to be alive.
Mm-hmm.
Of
Yeah.
course,
Yeah.
that's a given. Could we
Right.
try to add in, all those other things that maybe
Yeah.
we've dreamt about for 5 years when you were infertile and you have this
Mm-hmm.
vision of what things are supposed to be? Nobody's asking, but a doctor's not going to ask you. You have
Yeah,
to be
you
the
have
one that
to.
advocates for
That's
yourself.
true.
or your partner has to say, listen, I
Mm-hmm.
know this is what her dream is. And we have like on Twiniversity, we have a birth preferences worksheet. So you could
Okay.
just go
Mm-hmm.
and get that. And even if you never use it, just know what your choices are
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and just have a say in stuff and take back some of that you gave to them. Because like, I don't like Michelle, honestly, people don't realize that birth is something that imprints on your memory. It
Mm-hmm.
literally, the day of your birth, you will
Yeah.
remember until your final breath.
Yeah. Yes.
It's something that Mother Nature does for us wonderfully. And we have this memory. And there's a study that talks about Alzheimer's patients could talk about their birth in vivid description and be
Mm.
telling it to their child, but have no idea it's their child.
Wow.
So it's like, to me, when I read that, I remember
Mm-hmm.
saying, "Ooh, we got it. We have to change this. We have to
Mm-hmm.
change it so that people get to tell the story that they want to tell." So
Yeah.
like there's so many things that freaking go into Twiniversity. I really hope like for if anybody's out there, if you guys are listening, just email us at community@twiniversity.com. I would
Mm-hmm.
prefer everybody to take the live class because I also think you need to be part of that community. And we do that like every 4 weeks. And it's me that teaches. It's only me that teaches.
Oh,
And
okay.
scholarships are totally available. So please do not think that
Oh,
I'm like trying
nice.
to buy the kids giraffes. This, I
Yeah.
want people to get the help and support that they need.
Yes.
I'm really trying, like I was Googling yesterday, I was trying to find a grant that could help supplement my income that I could
Mm-hmm.
just work with people with lactation for free
Yeah.
because I hate asking people for money. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
It's one of my big problems that I have. I'm working on it in
Yeah.
therapy, but I don't because I'm like, if you're in such a vulnerable state, I don't want
Yeah.
to take
Yeah.
advantage of that. And I
Mm-hmm.
go back once again to that village. Nobody was giving her anything. That was just an
Mm-hmm.
expected thing that you did.
Yeah.
And then I
Mm-hmm.
think about like the way that I was raised in my community and all the things that people did that they didn't have to do. I really want to try to find a way that I could still pay for college, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, like the college isn't going to give a crap that I'm volunteering. They're not going to be like,
Right.
oh, that's
Right. Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
We'll take $8 million off for your twins, you know, and
Right.
twins double the college cost
There.
at the same
Yep.
exact time. So start preparing now because that's going to hit you like a freaking
Right.
frying pan at the back of the head. But I have to figure out like how to do that. And I know that I will. So it's going to be on
Mm-hmm.
my agenda for next year. But I just want people to know, like, you could call me for 20 minutes. Like, don't
Yeah.
feel bad. And just
Mm-hmm.
like you have had this vision of like who I am and like, oh my God, I can't believe it's happening.
Yeah.
You now see that I'm really just one of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there
Mm-hmm.
is like, I want people to know, like, I'm very accessible. And the phone number on
Mm-hmm.
the Twiniversity website is my cell phone. It's
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
cell phone. We're not like a corporation where you're going to get to like a hotline
Yeah.
that somebody's going to answer. And oh, my whole team has twins. So
Oh
if
wow.
I
Yeah.
can't, like, that's it. You're part of the Twiniversity team, and we do have a team. Knock on wood, man. I can't do it
Yeah.
without my girls.
Yeah.
So it's there, and there's somebody who's on Instagram and somebody's on Facebook. And it's not just somebody like, cutting, pasting. It's making
Uh-huh.
sure that like there was somebody who lost their twins this morning on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
And so like we now have like a whole process and we
Yeah.
have, these wonderful resources that are available to people that have
Mm-hmm.
miscarriages or like early miscarriages or loss. So we have all of that available
Yeah.
and you have to babysit things, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we're not babysitting to put in links so that you could click to us and you could buy this.
Right.
That's not our goal. Our
Yeah.
goal is to make you feel whole and
Mm-hmm.
to just know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't remember what the question was, but I hope that I answered it.
You did. You did.
All right.
And so, one thing that I've kind of struggled with, I guess, was all right, now I'm a mom, right? I'm a twin mom at that. So, double the work, double the duty, all this good stuff. But getting back to who I am as an individual, as a woman, right? And not having that guilt. Because that's what I struggle with. It's the guilt of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, when I'm doing stuff for me, I feel like, okay, I could be doing more for my babies, but
Mm-hmm.
I know that, in order for me to be whole and give them my all, I have to be whole and I have to be okay with me, right? But it's still, I'm not gonna lie, it's still a day-to-day struggle, right? And so what advice do you have for the mother who feels like she's losing herself in motherhood?
It's very simple. And I'm not even like effing around. I am very serious. I wrote a whole article on it because when I saw this stupid meme, it gave me a reset on my own self.
Mm-hmm.
and it said, "You are not relaxing, you are recovering."
Mm.
See?
Yes.
See what I'm
Yes.
saying to
Oh
you?
my gosh. Light
And
bulb.
when you realize
That's
that
so
you
true.
have to take time
Mm-hmm.
because things happen and it's
Yeah.
stressful, whether you need to recover from work, whether you need to recover from that tantrum, whether you need to recover because your period was really bad, whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is,
Yeah.
if you have to take a minute, because
Mm-hmm.
if you don't, it will build up and
Yeah.
it will
Yeah. That's
build up
true.
and build up and build up. So if you take tiny bits of recovery here or there,
Mm-hmm.
meaning going to the bathroom with the door closed,
Yeah.
taking an extra long shower, sitting in your car for 10
Mm-hmm.
minutes before you go in, listening to your podcast, like
Yeah.
whatever it is, it doesn't have to be a manicure. It doesn't have to be going to have coffee with your friends. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like you need a freaking minute, for God's sake. And if
Yeah.
you
You
don't
do.
take it, you will come crashing down. I guarantee it. I
Mm.
promise you, if you
Yeah.
don't do that, you are going to pay the price. Your body's going to pay the price. Your kids are going to pay the price. Your partner's going to pay the price. Your
Mm-hmm.
boss is going to pay the price.
Yeah.
Nobody wins if
Yeah.
you don't just take a moment.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to figure out how like to find yourself, you
Mm-hmm.
have to give yourself a freaking moment to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
That's so
Because I
true.
could say, like, oh, we could journal. Oh, we could do this. No, some people enjoy watching crappy TV.
Right.
Some people enjoy going to get a cleaning at the dentist because they love their way their teeth feel. There is
Mm-hmm.
no way that somebody could do that. But you have to have a moment where your mind is clear enough to
That's
think.
so true. That's so true. And I think my method is definitely the sit in the car. Like
Yeah, it's fine.
because I commute from San Francisco to Sacramento. And so after the drive, I'm like, all right, let me just sit in here for a minute,
Yeah.
because I know as soon as I get in, they're gonna be super excited to see me. And I'm just like, I just need a moment real
Mm-hmm.
quick. And then it's gonna be bedtime. And then after bedtime, I come down and I'm just like, it almost feels like you've been in like this whirlwind. It's like
Yes,
the
it is. You
calm. I'm
have
like,
been. It's
yeah.
not how it feels. Girl,
It
you
is.
were, you are. It's a present tense. That is what it is.
Good. See, I'm so glad because I'm just like sometimes I have these moments like, am I the only one going through this? Like, and that
Mhm.
was really the reason why I started my podcast. It was really just me kind of just like this is me, this is what I'm going through. Like, I don't know if I'm the only one, but it was just good to really like get it out and just talk about it. Whether somebody was listening or not, I got it out and I was like, that's all that matters
Good.
to me. And it just kind of evolved into something else. But yeah, initially that's what it was. And that was kind of like therapeutic, I guess, for me to do that as well. So yeah, I'm like, I can't be the only one. I know there's someone
No,
out
you
there.
you really aren't. We're all the same, and we all have this kind of like what it should be. Like, not to like, beat a dead horse, as horrible as that saying is. But it's like, we all have this expectation, and you see what like parenthood is supposed to look like
Yeah,
and
yeah.
what motherhood should be. And if
Hmm.
we don't fit whatever that mold is, we
Right.
somehow make it disappointing for ourselves. But you can't do that. Like, I'm
Yeah.
going to tell you, one of the best parts about being older is
Hmm.
that I am done.
Yeah.
I am done with that. I don't know how I did that. I know
Hmm.
everybody's going to, but I have two post-its next to me, and one
Hmm.
of them says, value yourself, because
Mm.
still at this age, I don't. And I
Mm.
don't know why I don't, but I have to figure out like it's okay to be like,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
am a freaking rock star. I
Yes,
don't
you
do that
are.
enough.
Yes.
And then the other one says, what is my role in this?
Hmm.
And I have a very hard time saying no. And
Mm.
it's not only like I'm never going to say no to another parent, but like when the school messages me and they're like, we're having a Christmas breakfast. And I'm like,
Gotcha.
I'm going to make egg McMuffins for everybody. Like,
Yeah.
what am I doing? Right? I'm like, what
Right.
is happening? Why did I just agree to do that? So I really try to say, like, what could I do differently? And do I have a
Hmm.
role in this? Even like when my mom says, like, oh, I want to move this piece of furniture. And I want to be like, you can't move that piece of furniture because it's not going to fit any place in the apartment. I just say, what is my role in this? It's not my
Yeah.
piece of furniture. Can I help
Hmm.
her? Like, I'm not going to sit here and like, how could I what is my role in that? And how do I support her? So I think
Yeah.
about that not only with my regular days, but I also think about it with my kids.
Hmm.
And when you're twins, and like honestly, like you should start doing this now, because
Mm-hmm.
when they're having a conversation or an argument or
Mm-hmm.
anything, what is your role in that? Your
Yeah.
role is, yes, is nobody hurting each other? That's the
Mm-hmm.
deal breaker. But if they're not, they can just work it out. You
Yeah.
don't have to go in every time. And you know
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
If their shirt's on backwards, nobody's going to
Yeah.
care. It's a youth, that's a you thing, right? If
Yeah,
they
that's
are
true.
eating Cheerios for the 15th time in a row, they still have food in their belly. Like maybe
That's true.
throw them an
Yeah.
egg every now and then. They're going to be fine.
Yeah.
But you have to look and say, okay, what really is my role in this? How could I scale back? How could I take a minute to recover? And how
Hmm.
do I get to the next version of me?
Yeah,
Because also the you
that's
that
true.
the you in Alabama was different than the
Hmm.
you in Miami is different
It's
than the
so
you in
true.
California.
Very different.
You're going to have another version of you too, and you're probably going
Yeah.
to have 3 or 4 more versions, and they're all
Hmm.
going to be freaking fantastic. But if you don't stop and say, what do I want to do next? What does
Yes.
success look like to me? Be it
Hmm.
my life, my kids life, whatever, you're not
Uh-huh.
going to know that you got there.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you on that one. Totally different
I always say, like,
experience and
that's it. Thank you for coming to my TED talk. I always feel like,
right.
guys, but that's like the benefit of
But
having bigger kids, is because I know that
yeah.
me at 3, I wasn't doing that. And nobody
Hmm.
told me I should. And
Yeah,
nobody
yeah.
said, dude, you have to take a break. Everybody's like, you look tired. Great. Now I have
Thank
to worry
you.
about the way that I look. Like, that's
Right,
thanks so much.
right.
But nobody said, like, you have to recover. Like, you've been through some
Yeah.
crap and
Yeah,
you need a
yeah.
minute. Even honestly, even your early delivery and even your
Hmm.
breastfeeding experience, you may not think that you're carrying that with you, but I would
Hmm.
bet you money you are.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And so the sooner that you kind of figure out, okay, well, how do I want to address this? Right. Because I'm going to
Hmm.
say, for years, I never went to therapy and things like that until like 2 years ago. So
Yeah.
I was never somebody, like, I have like my whole family around me who I talk. And then when
Right.
I finally went to therapy, and like I was saying, I said like my birth really messed me up. I had a very, very bad, I didn't even name my own kids. Like, I didn't
Mm,
think I was ever
mm,
going to meet them. So
mm.
like I was like, tell me their names, because when I die, I want to know who I'm looking for. Like,
Oh,
that's where
wow.
I was in my delivery.
Yeah.
And I when I finally did have a therapist, which I got for, because my daughter was going through some depression, I didn't know how to work with her. I
Hmm.
remember my therapist saying, like, you haven't like healed from that. And I'm like, dude, you're out of your mind. I talk about it all the time. She says, it's different when you're talking to teach and when you're
Hmm.
talking to heal.
Mm.
And I was like, all right, I
You
guess
might be
that's
onto
fair.
something.
Yeah. They're like, all right. Meanwhile, she's such a young therapist, and I joke with her all the time. I'm like, what do you know? You didn't even get your period. Like, how do you know about these things? But it's important. It's important to just acknowledge that this was a traumatic thing. This is an important thing. This was a good thing. Whatever it is, just give it a minute and just accept the weight of it, good or bad,
Yeah.
and then figure out what the hell you want to do with it.
All right.
You're gonna do
Sounds
this,
good.
Bo. I promise you, honestly. It's gonna get so much better. Like every year from here on out,
All
the
right.
kids are gonna get better, but they're gonna get better only if you get better.
Okay. Well, I plan on getting better, so we're gonna be good.
Good. I don't think you're bad now, but I'm just saying, I
I
want you to
appreciate
always
it.
be what you want to be. And I just, when we
Yes.
started, right? And you're like, little old me. I'm like, no,
Yeah, I know,
there's no
right?
little old me. You were fantastic, because you would never want your kids to say that. I
Yeah,
would never
definitely
want my
not.
daughter to say little old
No.
me. I want my kid to sit
I'm
up,
like,
shoulders back, up straight.
mm-hmm.
Show them who you are. That's
Yeah,
it.
you're
It's
right. You're
good.
absolutely
You're
right.
amazing. And
Thank
that's what
you.
you're going to teach your little puppies.
I
It's very
am.
exciting. Oh,
I
Michelle, I'm so
am.
happy. You made my
So,
day.
yeah, no, you made my day. So I just have one last question for you. I know you're a
Sure.
busy woman. I don't want to hold you up, girl. But so what can we expect from Twiniversity and from your book or any just future endeavors that you have going on? What can we expect from Miss Nat?
Well, that changes every day, because it's weird to prioritize, right? So like I said, I'm going to prioritize kind of making sure that people know what like free mental health resources are out there. So that's like
Yes.
a priority now. But then
Hmm.
sometimes it's like fun stuff. Like I know about like new double strollers that are coming out next
Yeah.
year, and
Oh.
I want people to know about them. And
Yeah.
I love being able to introduce stuff that's specifically made for us, because
Hmm.
there's this whole like 1+1 world, right? So like you and your one baby and you have another baby, we know that doesn't equal twins. Like, come on. We
Yeah.
like, don't try to fool us. So I like trying to be like, this is a real twin thing. Like, pay
Hmm.
attention to this if you want. take a look at it. But
Mm-hmm.
we have a few new things that are coming up this year with like stroller wagons, like a really cool stroller wagons coming out for twins.
Nice.
So I'm excited. I think that's going to be April, but I think we're going to have another class too. We're going to do a sleep class because
Okay.
people really like, that's another thing. If you could start the process early,
Mm-hmm.
then you'll never have to sleep train. You'll never have
Yeah.
to like sleep coach. Like if you could just begin at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
And
You're good.
so we're writing a book, a twins sleep book.
Okay, okay,
So that's going to
nice.
be a hot minute. So that's going to come out not next year, but the year like the March after because of editing and publishers and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But I have that going on, and then the plan is for 2023, which I think is next year. Yes, I always forget the year because I haven't remembered since 2018. But
Right.
every single month in 2023, we're going to come out with something new, be it
Okay.
a new worksheet for families, be it for pregnant people, be it for school age, potty training stuff. So we have a list of what we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to say that it's going to be 100%, but things are always going to take precedence, right?
Okay,
So
yeah.
if there is like a huge recall or something crazy like that, like we always
Mm-hmm.
stop to make sure that everybody is safe first.
Gotcha.
And then after that, we'll go for that. And then we try to make some money after that because my team has to be paid because
Yeah.
they insist. But it's really cool. And I love that I could continuously provide resources for, for all of us. And
Yeah.
I really do. And I also like, I love your podcast, and I love that
Oh, thank you.
you guys know that every twin family out there is welcome, no matter where you are
Mm-hmm.
geographically in the world, no matter where
Yeah.
you are economically in the universe. It doesn't matter. We're all
Mm-hmm.
going through the exact same freaking thing. And so
Yes.
I love that you're just preaching the good word of twins out there. And you keep
Thank
doing
you.
that too. Don't be
Thank you.
ridiculous. Like, thank you. Look, see, thank you. No, no, thank you.
Right. Well, again, how can you be reached for someone that's like they're listening, they're like, I got to get
Yeah.
all this information, all this good resources. How can they contact you and how can they be
It's
reached?
so easy. We are just at Twiniversity on every social platform. So you could send
Okay.
us a direct message there, and we monitor it. There's somebody at least once a day on every platform, just checking messages, just in case there was like an emergency of, somebody was delivering early or had micro preemies and
Yeah,
freaking out.
yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
then you could always email us at community@twiniversity.com. That
Okay.
immediately gets checked. So there is no time limit on any of that.
Yeah.
And then there's our website. And so you just go to twiniversity.com, and we really put a lot of effort into the search engine within our site. So
Uh-huh.
if you're like, my twins aren't sleeping, just put in the word sleep. If your kids
Okay.
aren't eating,
Gotcha.
just put in the word food. Like
Yeah.
we really make it so that it's very funny because Nichelle, I have very bad ADHD.
Mm.
I don't know if you could tell, but I write in a style that's called I'm neurodiverse, is what it
Oh,
is.
okay.
So I build things the way that I like to receive information,
Yeah.
which is in
Mm-hmm.
tiny, tiny little chunks. Like I'm not going to read a freaking novel. And you'll
Yeah.
notice
Uh-huh.
that like the book on your desk, it actually was written in tiny little chunks so that you
Mm-hmm.
don't have, you get the information you need and you get out. Like,
Yeah.
that's it. I'm not trying to keep you on my website for
Right,
15 days.
right.
Get what you need and go, and then go relax in the car by yourself. Like, don't
Right.
spend your time with us. Get what you need and go. And then if you need something, if you're like a super techie person, we also have a really good app that's on the
Okay.
App Store and it's in Google Play. So
Mm-hmm.
it's all there. It has horrendous reviews. I will tell you, I think it's literally sitting at a 1 star, but please read the reviews because it's people who never actually use the app.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't understand how Apple and Google even allow a review of
Right.
an app if they've never used it.
Just saying.
I don't get it. I don't get it. So just know that we have thousands of users every single day, and it's
Yes.
functioning beautifully. And we have
Yes.
a really great twins tracker. So keeping tracks of
Okay.
poops and pees and breastfeeding and bottle
Mm-hmm.
feeding. And you could put it in a PDF so that your doctor could get it and you could have all
Mm-hmm.
that. So we specifically
Nice.
made that to make your lives easier. But however you want to receive the information, that's how we
Yeah.
want you to get it. So you could find me, I'm like horse poop. I
Yeah.
am everywhere. And it's just, you could even ask Alexa to play the Twiniversity podcast, and
Uh-huh.
she will.
Okay
So,
now.
which I honestly, if there's one thing that I'm most proud of, it's the fact that I took a word, Twiniversity, that doesn't exist, and
And
now it is internationally
yes.
recognized.
Yes. That's awesome.
Crazy.
Kudos to you.
Crazy.
Congratulations, girl.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers. A little water bottle. Cheers.
This is old Tito's. That's all that is.
Sometimes you need that, right?
Amen. Amen.
Well, thank you again, Natalie. This has been amazing. It's been very informational. And again, much success and congratulations to everything that you have accomplished thus far. And I know there's just many more blessings that's coming your way. And again, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already gotten the book, it's really a guide to just surviving the first years. But even so, even though I'm past the first years, there's still things in there that I can still use. And thank you again. I appreciate you, your hard work, and for, holding it down for the twin moms out there, twin parents, everybody that has twins in their lives. This is definitely a great resource for us all. So I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you enjoy your beautiful day.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks again. You have a good
You
one.
got it, girl. You too,
Bye-bye.
Bye.